Hello everyone and welcome to Monza for round 8 of the 2021 Formula 1 season here in the Alternative Apex series. After the thriller we had in Spa, it is time to go to another high-speed circuit in the form of Monza. Of course, the home of the Tifosi and Ferrari, the Italian Grand Prix has had some memorable races through the years, but I'm sure today we'll add to that list of great classic Grand Prix. Here you see the Temple of Speed in all its glory. You see how long the straights are at this circuit. It is almost entirely straights here with a few chicanes and corners chucked in there. If you thought Spa was flat out, wait till you see this place. As you can see, the cars are on the grid now. Ignore the F1 Games little graphic there, that's not quite accurate. But yeah, the safety car in front of the field, the drivers preparing for the Grand Prix. Championship standings, as you can see, Verstappen on 125, 18 points ahead of Lewis Hamilton now after his win in Spa. McLaren on a bit of a run at the moment, and in theory this track should suit them, so look for the McLaren drivers to perhaps get into the fight today. As we're getting slightly later in the season now, there's more and more grid penalties starting to come into effect. So when you look at the grid today, take it with a pinch of salt, because of course it is the grid we'll see, but that is not necessarily how they stacked up after qualifying. But nonetheless, here is your grid for today's Grand Prix. On the front row of the grid, it is Lewis Hamilton lined up alongside his Mercedes teammate Valtteri Bottas, just a tenth and a half separating those two. Then it's Ricciardo and Leclerc on the second row ahead of Perez, then Carlos Sainz. Then it is Stroll and Verstappen, who had a grid penalty taking him off the front row. And it's Giovinazzi and Norris, Alfa Romeo getting their car in the top 10, a very strong result there. Russell in 11th, just outside the top 10, ahead of Gasly. And then the rest of the order here, it's Raikkonen ahead of Sebastian Vettel, Nikita Mazepin in 15th, then Pato O'Ward, Mick Schumacher 17th, Ocon in 18th, Schwartzman in 19th, 20th to Latifi, and the final row of the grid is Fernando Alonso and Yuki Tsunoda. So, as you can see, that grid is very, very mixed up, and it's certainly an unusual grid, and let's see if it turns into an unusual Grand Prix. As we are racing in Monza, is it a good enough start from the pole sitter Lewis Hamilton? Looks like it is, as he's already pulling away from his teammate, but that is Valtteri Bottas coming back at him into turn 1. They're free wide going to turn 1. Who's going to break the lead? They're free wide, Ricciardo on the outside, now the inside for turn 2. But Lewis Hamilton in the middle of those two, in the middle of Bottas and Ricciardo, finds himself in the lead of the Grand Prix, or does he? That's Valtteri Bottas powering past as they go through the Curva Grande. Hamilton now is going to have to settle back into the slipstream at the moment, but not able to make a move into the the Della Rosia chicane. And now later in that lap towards Parabolica they go. Lewis Hamilton going for the move on Valtteri Bottas around the outside of his teammate. The Mercedes driver of Bottas looks to have an issue. That's Valtteri Bottas going slow. He's now got Ricciardo on the back of him. Bottas dives to pit lane on lap 1 of the Grand Prix. Valtteri Bottas pits from the lead of the Grand Prix to, well, he's going to drop all the way down to last position here. This is a nightmare start for the Mercedes drivers who got such a great launch. Was well in the lead just until he's clearly got some wing damage at some point. I would have to assume it's happened in that sort of melee into turn 1, but that's a shame there. Bottas getting a great start, but having to put it into lap 1. Meanwhile, Antonio Giovinazzi, the home hero, currently running 5th in this Grand Prix. A great race so far by the Italian driver. His teammate Kimi Raikkonen in 14th place behind George Russell and Sebastian Vettel, who are duelling it out here for the 12th position. Russell, of course, starting quite high because he didn't have a grid penalty. Found himself 11th on the grid. He's already dropped to 12th. It looks like he might just drop down to 13th now, as Sebastian Vettel on the back end. Doesn't look like Vettel is able to pull it off now. But Vettel's going to have another go into Parabolica, or now, as it's known, the Curva Alboreto. These two going wheel to wheel. It's a long corner, but a very high speed corner, so it's not easy to go side by side with. They'll probably lose a bit of speed here down the straight. You can see that gap in front of them getting quite big. Just behind them, Kimi Raikkonen's got to run on them. Where will Raikkonen go? He's going to go to the outside. No, he's going to go to the inside. He's in the wall. Kimi Raikkonen's in the wall down the straight. Will everyone avoid his car? Looks like they just about have, but Kimi Raikkonen crashing down the straight here in Monza. And that is Kimi Raikkonen out of this race, and the safety car has been deployed. Safety car is out, and some cars are choosing to take this opportunity to pit on lap 4 of the Grand Prix. Ricciardo leads those that are going down pit road. Interestingly, Lewis Hamilton has stayed out on the racetrack, along with Giovinazzi, Stroll, and a host of other drivers. But Ricciardo in the pit lane now. Red Bull double stacking that. A bit of a sacrifice to Perez's day, as he'll now end up way down the order. But that's split the field very much in half now, as Ricciardo the lead car on the fresher tyres. down in 14th position. But the field now behind the safety car, Lewis Hamilton leads them ahead of Antonio Giovinazzi in his home Grand Prix and Lance Stroll. Quite the podium we have on our hands at the moment. Let's see if that lasts. Let's see which strategy comes out on top here. Most of those that pitted went to softs, so they've still got to make a pit stop like everyone else, but they're going to have more grip at this stage. Lewis Hamilton will lead them back to green here. Flags change from yellow back to green. Lewis Hamilton leads the field. Antonio Giovinazzi in his slipstream. Giovinazzi looks a little bit too far back to go on this occasion, but he's right there behind the Brit as they dive into turn 1. Sending up the inside, that's Nikita Mazepin further back in the pack. Nikita Mazepin sending it into turn 1, getting past the Williams driver of George Russell. Great start there, restart there by Nikita Mazepin, the Russian driver. He hasn't had much going on this season in that Haas car. It's not been competitive in the slightest, really. At the absolute most has been racing Robert Schwartzman in the Williams cars, but now currently running up in a very strong position at the moment as he sees battling in his mirrors. That's wheel to wheel between Tsunoda and Russell going through the Alboreto curve. We've seen what happens through here. Last lap, will they all keep it clean down the straight? It's a very low downforce track this is, which is I imagine why we saw Raikkonen lose control of his car, making that high-speed move to avoid the cars in front of him on this straight with very little downforce, plus the fact he had DRS. It took him, all his experience wasn't enough to keep control of his car. Meanwhile, we've got a great battle here for the 9th position, make the 8th position actually. Fernando Alonso, Yuki Tsunoda and George Russell all in this fight. Russell dropping down the order still, he is not having a great time at the moment. That Williams car not looking very competitive at all around the Monza circuit as they're battling away. Alonso and Tsunoda, the oldest and, well, the second oldest and the youngest driver on the grid, battling it out there for the 8th position. Fernando Alonso uses his experience there to get ahead of the young driver in the AlphaTauri. A lap later, they're battling again, but this time they've got add to the mix. It's Daniel Ricciardo, the driver that pitted under that first safety car, the lead driver that pitted on those fresher soft tyres in that very quick McLaren car. Gets himself up ahead of the 2 drivers and gets himself into 8th position now. He's away behind the leader, but you know, this strategy could well still pay off after a strong drive in Spa. Looking to try and add to that today. Meanwhile, up at the front, Lando Norris is going for the move on 2nd place to get Antonio Giovinazzi. Giovinazzi still in on a podium position at the moment, but we've got a long way to go in this Grand Prix. And that Alfa Romeo isn't the quickest at the moment. It's not on pace. It's not where it is. It was an absolute dream podium for Antonio Giovinazzi in France, of course. Great defensive drive, battling the Alpines for that podium. But here he's got some slightly quicker competition as Lewis Hamilton, the race leader, comes into the pits, meaning that Antonio Giovinazzi will now lead his home Grand Prix. Hamilton pitting for medium tyres, he'll be able to take those to the end if he gets held up a little bit there by Lando Norris, who comes into the pits. But he was pretty comfortable out front, so he shouldn't have any issues rejoining in the lead once everyone has pitted. Hamilton now making his way to the pit exit. It's a very high speed pit exit here. Rejoining it, it's relatively dangerous in the sense that the cars coming past are very, very quick. And into the pits, race leader Antonio Giovinazzi. Not something I was expecting to say today, but I mean, you could argue, you know, that's only happened because he went out a lap longer, but he was in 3rd position, so he's in quite the position to go that a little bit longer. And Antonio Giovinazzi does pit. Ricciardo now takes the lead of the Grand Prix, but then it's his turn to pit now. On those fresh softs didn't get much further than those that didn't pit. Sorry, Ricciardo now pitting from the lead of the Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc for Ferrari now leads this Grand Prix. We've got a real range of drivers out front today. It's Charles Leclerc and the home hero team being Ferrari. They get to lead a lap now, so the Prancing Horse fans have something to go home happy about. Let's see if that ends up being a good result or just the lap led, who knows. Charles Leclerc enters the pits now from the lead of the Grand Prix. Let's see what goes on behind. Sebastian Vettel is in 2nd now. He's going to pit as well, I would imagine. All these cars going to the medium tyres, just comfortably get them to the end, no issues there. Lewis Hamilton finally retakes the lead of this race, so back to normality. Lewis Hamilton leads the Grand Prix. And we're just over halfway through the race, and Lewis Hamilton leads ahead of Lando Norris, and Pato O'Ward, put under that early safety car, went to the hard tyres. So whilst a lot of the drivers went to the softs, Pato O'Ward went to the hards. He finds himself in 3rd place now, but those hard tyres compared to fresh mediums are not going to be very nice at all, so we could see, and we do see, Pato O'Ward immediately coming under pressure here from Pierre Gasly into Curve Alboreto. Gasly to the inside, and Pato O'Ward can't fight that one at all. The AlphaTauri's cookie car, let alone when it is on those fresh medium tyres. Pato Award now in to defend from Daniel Ricciardo as the car that he's coming under pressure by. But they're both catching back up to Pierre Gasly here. Gasly's going to squeeze Ricciardo nearly into the right-hand side wall there. And Ricciardo makes a lovely double overtake, locking up a little bit there, but the last late breakers does it again and finds himself into third position now. It's currently McLaren 2-3, so it's a good day for them already. Down towards Ascari they go. It's Pato Award once again dueling it out with Pierre Gasly. This time Antonio Giovinazzi wants to get involved, and he is going to get involved. Pato Award going deep there. That Chevrolet struggling on those hard tyres. Those hard tyres do not look fun at all. I mean, he's the only driver in the field that is going to have to use them, and will use them in this race, as he now does pit from that points-paying position. He could have stayed out and maybe risked it and try and go to the end, but those tyres did not look in good nick at all. And even if they were fresh, those hard tyres not looking good as a race tyre here, as he now drops his way down the order. We've got a battle here between Max Verstappen and, I believe, Lance Stroll. Sebastian Vettel. Going in to the first chicane. Max Verstappen just ahead. And Verstappen making a bit of a charge up the order here. He's got his championship on the line, so he really needs to start making some overtakes as they make their way up through the field. Now battling away, it is Antonio Giovinazzi and Charles Leclerc, the Italian driver in the Italian car versus the Monegasque driver in the Italian car. Alfa Romeo versus Ferrari, two big greats of the Italian car market going at it here on the Formula 1 track here in Monza. Truly is a sight to see here as they battle their way down towards the first chicane over this 6th position. I think fair to say 6th position would have mean a lot more to Antonio Giovinazzi and the Alfa Romeo team than it would to Ferrari and Charles Leclerc, but nonetheless I'm sure Leclerc will want this position just as much to try and solidify their position in the championship. Diving into Ascari now, Leclerc deeper on the brakes and makes a lovely move there around the outside of the Italian and finds himself up into the 6th position. Next driver will have to hunt down is Sergio Perez. Meanwhile at the back of the field, Max Verstappen continuing to try and salvage this championship challenge. He makes his way past Esteban Ocon. Verstappen had an 18-point championship lead, but as things stand, that lead will be demolished and Hamilton will have the lead. So Verstappen is going to be desperate to get these positions here to just try and salvage what has been a miserable day. That grid penalty hurting him more because of that double stack in the pits. He was the car behind and now finds himself battling the likes of Fernando Alonso, who is coming back at Verstappen into the first chicane. What can Verstappen do? Not much is the answer. And they make their way through this long Curva Grande. Hence why it's called Big Corner when directly translated. Into the De La Rocha chicane, Verstappen gets ahead up into 11th position now, and that Red Bull with its extra downforce should be able to pull away through the two Lesmo corners. Meanwhile, we're about for 7th place, Antonio Giovinazzi in the Alfa Romeo continuing to drop back here as Valtteri Bottas is going to come up the order into 7th position. Great move there by Bottas, using the straight line speed of the Mercedes to clear the Alfa Romeo quite quickly into the first chicane, and that's a nice, quick and easy overtake for the Finnish driver. Now we're going to battle for the 2nd position. The two McLarens once again are going to be dueling here in Monza as they head into the first chicane. Daniel Ricciardo versus Lando Norris. Who's going to come out on top here? These two both have had some great results this season. Ricciardo makes the move to get past his teammate up into 2nd place. He's got slightly better tyres, of course, making that extra pit stop, and it's a good recovery for the Australian driver to find himself up into that 2nd position because, of course, he made that one more pit stop than the drivers around him. But Lando Norris, don't count him out of it yet. That McLaren is very strong here, especially when it's behind another car, and in this case it's behind itself. It's behind another McLaren and is using that extra grip that Ricciardo has in the corners. Always nearly loses it down into the first chicane. It's a big moment for Norris, but it's not going to doesn't look like it's stopped his ambition to get this 2nd place off his teammate, as we've got battling but just behind there, I believe, between Perez and Gasly, two Red Bull owned cars. As they now come through Curva Grande, it's like Vettel Alonso here between the two McLaren drivers into the De La Rocha chicane. Who comes out on top here? Norris is gonna get the position up into 2nd place from Lando Norris, using those slightly more worn tyres very nicely there to find himself into the 2nd position. Meanwhile, we've got a battle here. We've got a freeway scrap here between Perez, Gasly and Leclerc. Let's see who will come out on top in this battle. We've got an incident further down the order. Oh, that's Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz is going slowly. Let's see if everyone will clear him fine, but Carlos Sainz will be dropping down the order like a stone now. And another engine failure for the Spanish driver. It has not been his season. Hasn't scored for such a long time, but he gets hit. And he's been hit by the Chevrolet of Robert Schwartzman. Schwartzman is out of the race here, going into the Ascari chicane. He's gone into the back of Carlos Sainz, who looked to have been retiring with an engine failure. But that is a another bad result for the Chevrolet driver. He's got to switch positions here between the McLarens. Daniel Ricciardo is back into the second position ahead of Lando Norris. Got a battle here. We'll go back to this battle further down the order. We've got Pierre Gasly, Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez. Charles Leclerc's managed to pull away from this group. Valtteri Bottas has now joined it. They're going 3 wide into the first game. Bottas trying to get the both of these two. Be crucial for Mercedes and the constructors for Bottas to get Perez in this race. And it looks like he might just do that. So wheel-to-wheel coming out of the Rettifilio chicane. Battling through the Curva Grande. That wheel-to-wheel. Perez and Bottas, the two wingmen to their championship contending teammates. They've got to think about the Constructors' Championship fight here. They've both got to get this position, but at the same time can't risk losing a position to Pierre Gasly. And on this occasion, Sergio Perez will come out on top here in this little battle. But it is now the final lap, so I think Perez may well have the position unless Bottas can try a move into Ascari. Let's see what Bottas can do here, making good use of the DRS. Can he get a run down towards the Ascari chicane? He's going to use all of that Mercedes top speed, which still looks fantastic this weekend, and swipes across the front of Sergio Perez into the 5th position, and that's an extra couple points to Mercedes' tally. But up at the front, it's Lewis Hamilton, who for surprisingly only the 2nd time this season takes the win, and what a win it will be for Lewis Hamilton. 5 seconds clear of the field, and crucial points over Max Verstappen in the championship. It looks like he's going to outscore Verstappen by 24 points. And it's Lando Norris who takes P2 just ahead of his teammate Daniel Ricciardo. Ricciardo not able to use the extra tyre grip he had. Charles Leclerc brings home P4 there for Ferrari. They can't be too disappointed with that result. Valtteri Bottas gets 5th for Mercedes ahead of Sergio Perez and Pierre Gasly. But your race winner today, Lewis Hamilton, with an outstanding drive up front. Really showing everyone how it is done here in Monza. That Mercedes car looked brilliant on track today. We saw Hamilton dominating the race up front and Valtteri Bottas cutting his way through the field. Great driving from the pair of them. But of course, let's not forget about the 2 McLaren drivers who for the 3rd consecutive race have got a double podium here. Great result for the McLaren team. And this team is looking like one to take the fight next season to Mercedes and Red Bull. Maybe. Just maybe they can, or maybe Ferrari, Charles Leclerc getting another good result there for Ferrari, maybe they could be the team that takes the fight to them. But at the moment, this year it is Mercedes versus Red Bull. It's Verstappen versus Hamilton, and Hamilton gets some crucial points against Verstappen in the championship. Lando Norris in 2nd with the fastest lap. Great drive from Norris there, from 10th up to 2nd. Brilliant drive ahead of Daniel Ricciardo in 3rd. Then Charles Leclerc, Valtteri Bottas in 5th. Sergio Perez 7th to Pierre Gasly. Antonio Giovinazzi, a strong home drive there to get 8th position ahead of Yuki Tsunoda and Max Verstappen, only able to salvage 1.28 seconds behind Lewis Hamilton come the checkered flag. That is a really disappointing result there for the Dutchman, who sees his championship lead disappear after that race. Of course, we saw in Austria the championship switch sides, but then immediately in Spa, Verstappen bounced back, grew that championship lead even more, and ended up with an 18-point championship lead going into here. But today, Hamilton has just, well, been on another level, and Red Bull making mistakes, making strategic errors, has put Verstappen down in the 10th position here, and the championship once again changes its position here, as Lewis Hamilton now leads the Drivers' Championship by 6 points over Max Verstappen, a crucial 6 points it could well mean at the end of the season. Perez 3rd in the championship here for Red Bull, and it's Lando Norris currently 4th in the championship ahead of Valtteri Bottas. Valtteri Bottas not having a good few races. Shout out to Norris, only 39 points off the championship lead here. He's having an outstandingly good season. Like, he is still in the championship fight, technically. He is mathematically in the championship fight, one of 5 drivers that are, with 2 races left in the season. So, outstanding work. Lando Norris is truly looking like a driver to watch out for in future seasons. As he currently sits 4th in the Drivers' Championship. 3rd down the order, you got drivers like Charles Leclerc up in 7th in the championship, not looking like he's going to be able to trouble those ahead of him, but nor will he be troubled by the cars behind him. Vettel in 8th position in the championship. Carlos Sainz, I can't even remember the last time Sainz scored points, it was that long ago, but he's still only on 8 points. Meanwhile, in the Constructors, that gap at the top has been destroyed again. Just like in the drivers, the gap has dissipated, but this time Red Bull still just about hold a lead by 7 points over Mercedes. McLaren in 3rd, and if they can get another strong result in next time out in Singapore, then we could legitimately be saying, could McLaren win the Constructors' Championship? I know it seems crazy, but they're mathematically in at the moment, and if they outscore Red Bull by 13 points next race, then they're still mathematically in the fight, which is hard to believe. But a great season from McLaren, currently in third. Third down the order. AlphaTauri jump up into fifth, starting to recover some of the lost points they lost midway through the season. Just 18 points off Ferrari. Maybe that battle could come to something, but if Carlos Sainz and Leclerc can both start performing at their maximum level, get the most out of the car, then I think they have that fourth position comfortably. Bit of a battle going on behind them though, but at the moment that is how the Constructors' Championship look. Here is the final two races of the season, Singapore and Mexico. Two races to look forward to for sure. 6 points in it at the top of the drivers, 7 points in it at the top of the constructors. It really is all to play for at the moment, so make sure not to miss anything. But that was round 8 of the season in Monza, the Italian Grand Prix. It was a real fight back for Mercedes, and crucial points for Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton as they get themselves back into a true championship contending position. Next up is Singapore. Historically that's a Red Bull track, but we've seen so far this season some of the historical records have been thrown out the window, so who knows who will come to Singapore looking in the best shape. Grid penalties could be another thing. We saw Verstappen take one today, so maybe Mercedes will have to take them in Singapore, but if not, they are looking comfortably in the fight, but it's all still very much to play for. With 2 races left in the season, who will be the champion of the 2021 Formula 1 season in the Alternative Apex Series? The only way to find out is to join us again next time. So, I'll see you guys tomorrow.